Welcome back to another empowering episode of the No Limits Life podcast. I'm your host, Nordine, joined by my co-host, Ken.
Hey.
Today's conversation is a celebration of service, legacy, and lifelong learning. We're speaking with someone who spent decades building bridges between business, education, media, and civic engagement. A true son of Tucson whose roots run deep into the soil of this community. The most powerful legacy is not what we build, but who we uplift while building it. Our guest today is a native of Tucson, a respected educator, and a seasoned entrepreneur. Since 1976, he has led Ackerley Advertising, one of the region's most trusted marketing firms. And since 1992, he's been shaping minds as a marketing professor at the University of Arizona's Eller College of Management. He's also a two-time candidate for mayor and currently hosts the Morning Voice on KVOI 10:30 a.m., bringing critical conversations to the airwaves every weekdays. Please join us in welcoming the thoughtful and community-driven Dr. Ed Ackerley.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, Ed, it's good to have you here.
Thank you, Ken.
Dr. Ackerley, can I call you doctor?
You can call me Ed.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Before we dive into your remarkable journey, I'd love to hear how today's quote resonate with your career and your community work. The most powerful legacy is not what we build, but who we uplift while building it.
I'll say two things. One, in working with Ackerley Advertising, about 25 years ago, we sent out a Christmas card, and the Christmas card was a creative thing, and the ornaments, each of the ornaments on the tree had the logo of the different civic and community organizations that we had helped over the years, and there was about 27 ornaments on that tree of organizations that we had helped with either free consulting or advertising, marketing, PR. And I think that's kind of the legacy of what my folks started in '68 was to help the community that you live in and give back. And we've given back thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars over the year of service to nonprofits. It's part of our DNA, and it's what we do. In terms of melding hearts and minds at the University of Arizona, I'm humbled that I've been there over 3.5 decades now. And
I know a lot of students love you from the past. I mean,
they do.
They know Dr. Ed Ackerley.
Yeah. I would say the greatest part of that is 5 years, 10 years, 15 years later to have some student look me up and call me up. And I'll just tell you one story. I was running for mayor of the city of Tucson, and a gentleman called me from Denver, Colorado, and he was wishing me well on the campaign. And he said, I just want to let you know that I'm in the business of advertising because I was in your class and you struck a nerve with me. And now I'm in Colorado. I have 5 kids and I'm in the advertising business and I owe it all to you. And, if you can make a difference in one person's life, one student's life, one professional's life by giving them a leg up and some inspiration, that's really the power of why I teach and the reason I continue to teach.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you mention making a difference in someone's life, so sometimes, making a difference in your own life is the most important thing to do.
Right.
And so people can emulate and get that energy. And, I get these messages from people I worked with, years ago, not long ago, like 2 years ago when the Volcano Fitness came out. I had this young kid who emailed me and said, I don't know if you remember me, but I met you a long time ago at Undisputed, was a gym here in town. And he said, you said 2 words to me, and that changed my life. And he sent me pictures of him now married, with a master's in business and a kid. And I was like, wow.
That's pretty gratifying when that happens.
That's what we were saying earlier with Ken. The power of words, words have energy, and they have consequences too. Right. So you also mentioned your folks earlier.
Right.
Can you tell me a little bit more about your folks and how they inspired you to doing this?
They were married in 1942, and my dad was, of all things, a DJ at KHJ in Hollywood, California, and I was actually sending my sister and brothers a little thing. Broadcasting Magazine back then was a big deal, and it made the big announcement that Gene Ackerley was going from KHJ to KSL in Salt Lake City, and he did radio for about 25
That's
years.
your father, Gene.
Yeah. He did radio for about 25 years and managed 3 stations here in Tucson. 1968, they opened the advertising agency. So we're 58 years old.
Wow.
That's
amazing.
That's a long time. And
yeah.
I've been there since since high school. And it's really my one and only job I've ever had. The extra job at the U of A and NAU are just add-ons to the job I've had. And they created quite a legacy in Tucson to still be around and have the same family own it. And my folks had a great reputation for taking care of the sales reps that came into our. There's a couple that just tell me stories about how they were selling for a bottom station, and they didn't really have anything to sell, and they'd come in and talk to my folks, and my folks would take care of them and be gracious to them, and maybe every once in a while buy something from them. And now they're general managers of radio stations here in Tucson, and so they speak very fondly of my parents.
If you make a difference, that difference is going to keep you forever. Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious. Do you think you're probably the longest running ad agency in Tucson?
Probably. There, some could claim a little bit longer, maybe. But we're the single owner. If you just say
That's
Ackerley,
just amazing. Yeah.
And there were some other long-term agencies in Tucson, but most of the bigger agencies have all changed hands a couple of times.
Oh,
now.
sure.
And so
it's a tough business, isn't it?
It's a terrible business to be in. I don't recommend it to anybody.
Well, I guess what I'm curious about is because broadcasting has changed so much. Cable's even changing.
Right.
Now we have digital, and
right.
It's just constantly changing. It's changing faster and faster. So, like, what have you seen change since you've been doing this as a high schooler?
Yeah, well, I think when in the late 60s, early 70s, you could contact everybody in a municipality like Tucson by buying 2 or 3 radio stations, 2 or 3 TV stations, buy an ad in the paper, and you'd basically cover the entire market. And so an advertiser could spend, a reasonable amount of money and make a pretty big dent in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we only had maybe 300,000 or 400,000 people in the city at that time.
But in Tucson now, there's almost 1 million, right?
1.5 million in the valley. So,
okay.
Yeah. But in the city of Tucson, there's just under 600,000. But that doesn't count Oro Valley and Marana and Vail and the surrounding unincorporated Pima County. So that's about 1.5 million. But now, man, trying to reach target markets, it's so splintered. So you have to buy 43 radio stations. You have to buy 15 TV stations, and the newspaper is all online now. And it's just it is such a different business than when I started. It made it very difficult to
I bet. You've seen a lot of changes.
Yeah.
But yet you're still here.
Yeah, we're still making a difference. And,
that's what's the most important is to do what you love to do and let it roll. Doctor, you've been teaching at the University of Arizona for over 3 decades. What continues to fulfill you in that role, and how has teaching shaped your perspective on leadership and service?
Speaking about inner fitness, I kind of have this argument with myself quite frequently, and I've been articulating it out loud recently. The model that we have for university education, or even K-12 education at this point, you have to rethink what we're doing. We have a model of education that's basically, 9 months in, 3 months out. That's based on an agricultural economy of 100 and 150 years ago when, they had to harvest during the summer. And then when you think about how we're sitting kids down in desks for 16 weeks at the university, twice a week, and we're imparting information to them and giving them tests and all of that, you have to ask yourself, are we a little behind the modern economy, and should we be doing something else? So I think the biggest thing that has changed is the digital age. When I first started teaching 3.5 decades ago, students would listen to lectures, they'd take notes by hand, and they'd be looking at the professor, and they would engage in the process. I go into classrooms now with 70, 30, 50, whatever the number is, kids. Half of them are buried in their laptop. Half of them don't pay attention, and we're not getting to them the way that they're receiving information. And now with AI, they're answering questions for homework and even on online take-home tests. They're just taking AI-generated content and cutting and pasting and putting it into the the answers. And so the question has to be asked, are we using the resources of education in the most dynamic way? So I've tried to change my teaching mode to more application and more scenario and more try to get them into a real world, bring in a lot of speakers and try to get them more interested in their own education, because I would say AI is probably going to really affect the way we educate university students into the future. You know, I could give them a YouTube video that's 30 minutes long and teach them how to do AI, and then all of a sudden, what do you do for the other 15 weeks of the year? So I'm a little concerned that during the COVID years, we kind of disenfranchised a whole generation and told them that, you know, you're not going to sit in classrooms, you're not going to pay attention, you're just going to do these exercises. Well, now they're coming in at the tail end of that, and there's an entitlement there and so forth. So to me, it's scary what we've done and concerning to me, and it's hard to reach them.
Absolutely, and I think the question, as you mentioned, is how are we going to mitigate that?
Right.
How educators are going to be able to refocus and work with AI, you know, and as we were talking about that earlier, AI, in my opinion, is here to enhance.
Yes.
You know, not to replace.
Right.
And if educators can get together and work towards helping kids understand that fact, you know, we might be able to save them. But there is a big problem that I've seen with educators is that they get overwhelmed.
Right.
You know, and when you are overwhelmed emotionally, mentally, physically, you reach what we call inner chaos, you know, and you all of a sudden find yourself self-medicating, you don't sleep well, and when you get in class,
disengaging.
You are completely, you feel like a robot. To add to that, kids are not even listening to you. 80% of, as you know, of course, is the way we project ourselves, you know, our expressions and the energy we are projecting. Only 20% are words, you know. Right. And I remember sitting in a 3-hour lecture with a professor from Harvard, was brilliant. But 75% of the room, after an hour, were sleeping.
Right.
You know,
that would have been me.
And I think because the professor, you know, in the content was great, but the context was very poor. Poor delivery.
Were they monotone?
Poor. Yes, yeah. The energy was not flowing. He's tired, and hence when I had a talk with him after that, we had a coffee. And I asked him how he slept that night. He said, I didn't. And I asked him, how do you expect to be performing 100% if you don't sleep? He said, oh, well, I was nervous. And I said, how long have you been a professor? He said, that's not even the issue. The issue is that there are other issues. There are other things that I'm tackling personally, and I'm not going to get into them. But unfortunately, those are, you know, in your subconscious mind, and that's happened. So again, educators such as yourself, you know, can handle this and can, you know, surf in that tsunami, an AI tsunami, because it's coming. Yeah. It's here. And it's going to be crazier and scarier as ever before. So we need to brace, you know, and for the worst and be able to navigate and teach our kids to do the same thing, and your students.
I have to say that I've been teaching a long time, and I got a kind of an interesting perspective. So my goal early on was to engage every student and get them to pay attention, get them to put their laptops aside and engage and participate in the discussion and be engaged. So I go around the room and point at them and make them ask questions and all of that, and they hate that, but I make them do that. But I'm big on attendance, and I'm big on showing up and being there and engaging. And so preaching to the choir, I would stand up in front of the class a couple years ago and you know, say I am concerned about lack of participation, lack of engagement, lack of of interest in what we're talking about here, and it's your education. You got to do this, and 20, 30, 40% of the class would continue to be disengaged in the process. And so one day I would finish up teaching, and a young lady walked up to me, and the room kind of filtered away, and she and I were just in the room by ourselves, and she said, "Dr. Ackerley, you're one of my favorite teachers of all time. You're a fantastic teacher. You're a great guy. I love what you teach us. You got to quit worrying about the people that don't care and start teaching those of us that do."
She related to you.
Wow, that's a great point.
Absolutely.
And since then, those people that check out, they're just there to get that piece of paper and move on. So
One of the things that I discovered with my own, when I speak, for instance, and my talk are anywhere between 30 minutes to 3 hours.
Right.
And I was doing a talk at high school here with 200 kids, 14 and up. Within 10 minutes, half of the room were like on their phone,
Right.
sleeping. So I'm like,
Talking,
okay.
yeah.
So I took a deep breath. I said, "Stop it." And I got their attention. I said, "Put your phone down, please. Stand up, all of you. Everyone with knee problems or any heart problems, please step aside. The rest, jumping jacks. 1 minute." I got their attention.
I bet.
Why do you think that is? The blood flow that went to the brain woke them up.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I got their attention for the rest of the talk.
That's great.
And that, I think, is important to note, that when you marry or you create synergy between the mind, body, and heart, you get their attention.
I'm going to start doing jumping jacks when I get tired.
It's because it's important. It's important to wake up and understand that, hey, you know what? I'm not going to do this.
Right.
You have a phone, okay? That's because it's across the board. You see it in restaurants. You see it. Einstein said, in 100 years, you're going to see a society of idiots, right? And we're there.
Yeah.
And everywhere, and not only kids. I think we talked about this in previous shows. They're on their phones.
Mm-hmm.
But when you tap them and when you get them involved physically, that's gone.
Right.
There's something to say about that synergy between the mind and the body.
That's interesting that you say that, because one of my techniques in class is to make them stand up when they're giving an answer that's not in every case, but when it's something significant and I want them to present it, I make them stand up physically and own the room and say it in such a way. And if they start the sentence with or I believe or I hope, I stop them and I say, okay, let's start over again. Let's start with own the room. Mm-hmm. Tell us what you know and tell us it in a complete sentence that makes some sense. So they think for a little bit, and it engages them in the process.
And one of the interesting things is that ego gets engaged, especially in the boys.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Oh wow, I'm going to perform here.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
When you allow them to perform, especially when they're girls, they do a fantastic job, and they remain engaged. Questions start popping up and everything. Mm-hmm. When like 10 minutes ago they were like asleep on their phone.
I also make them. I take a textbook and I'll break it up into 14 different chapters, and then I make them do a presentation on it.
Brilliant.
And then I come back and wrap it up and do the presentation again a second time. But I use Bloom's taxonomy of educational objectives, and that is that some people learn by reading, some people learn by hearing, some people learn by watching a video, some people learn by acting it out kinesthetically, some people learn by repetition. And so I try to incorporate all of that into my classroom so that it really hits home. So if they're in the elevator with the dean and the dean asks them, what do you know about the subject, they can articulate a 30-second response.
The powerful engagement. Yeah, that's indeed, yeah.
I was just thinking about when I heard you're going to run for mayor the first time.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
I was very,
what was I thinking, Ken? What was I thinking?
I was very proud to know you because you were the first person I ever met that was running for an office. Right. I mean, I knew people already had the office, but I never knew anybody that was running. And so you ran in 2019, 2023.
Right.
And so what can you share with us about that experience? Because that's tough. I mean, a lot of people don't realize how hard it is until you do it.
Well, the previous mayor was in office for 8 years, and he was a friend of mine, and he let me know the day before that he was not going to. He was going to make an announcement that he wasn't going to run, so I had overnight to think about it, and he made his announcement, and one of my clients actually came into my office and said, "Did you hear the mayor said that he wasn't going to run again? You should run for mayor." And I said, "How did you know I was thinking about it?" It was a difficult decision to make. I ran as an independent, which in a market like the municipality that we're in, which is highly to the left, it's hard to gain a foothold, even though the distribution in a state like Arizona is kind of like the nation, a third Democrat, a third Republican, and a third independent. And in the state that we're in, to have an independent win is a tough, heavy.
Has that
lift.
ever happened before?
Not in Tucson, not as
Okay.
mayor, and even not as a council member. So I was taking a huge gamble, but I did it because our national political scene was kind of moving towards more of the independent, people getting sick of the us versus them, and you're wrong, I'm right, and all of that. So I thought I had a good, and I did show, the numbers did show in the first election that I came awfully close.
You brought your message across.
Yeah, I came awfully close. The second time I ran, I probably didn't have that wind at my back.
What is your vision for Tucson for the future?
Well,
what do you want to see happen?
I think this is an issue that all municipalities. We love San Diego, and we go there a lot. They have these same issues. We love to go.
Good place to go in July, August.
Yeah, we love to go to Hawaii, and
Another good place to go.
They have the same issues. So every municipality is fighting the same exact issues. It's what they do with it. And so I can use some examples here, and even just up in the Phoenix area of some municipalities that have won the battle and have been able to do this. So I would say the big issues for most municipalities, small governments and local cities and so forth, first and foremost is police protection. We don't have, ironically in Tucson, we have about 750 commissioned officers. A mere 15 years ago, we had 1,500 police officers. So we're down to
Holy
about
cow.
half. That's why we have a street in Tucson called Speedway. That's why people speed on it, is because there are no police to do anything.
I might be guilty of that sometimes.
Yeah, and so crime is an issue in every single city, and it has to do with fentanyl, and it has to do with the illicit drugs that are causing, a lot of the homelessness. About 80% of the homeless people are people who are addicted to drugs. There's 20% that are mentally ill and need other kind of services, but there's a lot of people that have just checked out because of the ease of the fentanyl problem. So this is a huge issue across the United States. And then the obvious thing in our city is people pay taxes so that their roads are meaningful, and it's an economic development driver.
The roads are pretty rough here.
It's an economic development driver. If a person flies in, there's stories of big companies flying into our town and jumping on the roads to go and check out a place, and they get on these washboard roads, and it looks like the city doesn't care, or the people don't care about their city. They don't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
They get right back on the plane and leave and go somewhere else. So
I've heard those stories before.
Those are the major issues. Water is also in the West a huge issue for all of these cities. Phoenix is suffering. Southern California, the lack of water, and trying to come up with a way to solve that problem as we get more and more people moving into the valleys and less water. It's going to hit us in 20, 30, 40 years. About what do we do now?
Well, let's hope for the best. And I think, issues are everywhere, whether our towns, cities, or within families, or within self. We dealing with our own sort of demons, and I
would say the biggest issue, what you're alluding to right here, the biggest issue that the city has, and maybe even the state, and some would argue even the country, leadership. Mm-hmm. I think that leadership is there's different kinds of leadership, and I think I keep asking myself, where is the Abraham Lincoln? Where is the George Washington? Where is the Ronald Reagan or the John Kennedy, who has a vision, who steps to the plate and brings the country together under a unified theme of we're Americans and we're the best, and brings all of their people in their city together and says, okay, I'm elected now. Let's bring you all together. Let's all work on these problems together. Let's solve these problems, and let's take care of one another.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's missing.
It's no longer the case. I think we all understand. We all see where it's going. There's no vision for a one unified country. It's what is going to benefit the person themselves. We lost that. I don't know when we're going to get it back. But I think, this show, we talk about awareness, and
starts one heart at a time.
It starts within yourself, and if our leaders are disconnected from themselves, it's only going to get worse. Nothing is done to the benefit of humanity and the service of humanity if it's not done from within first. But thank you for being on the show.
Okay.
I know that you've been doing everything you can to help the community and your students and human as a whole. So thank you. Your journey has been a long and very, very, very interesting.
Well, thank you.
From what you said.
I'm very
to
blessed.
us.
I'm very blessed.
Yes. Your commitment to education.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
We're very lucky to have you here, and we appreciate it. And this went so fast. I want to make sure I thank our listeners, our viewers. Thanks for watching this podcast and the other podcasts that we've done. We've got a lot of other great podcasts coming up for you guys. But please subscribe, share, like if you enjoyed what you heard today. And we look forward to seeing you again on our next podcast. So thanks, Ed.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you.